U.S. President Joe Biden. There's an interesting photograph of him that I want to show you. And it really says everything you need to know, right? So here is Uncle Joe kneeling before the Israeli president. Now, this is interesting, man. This is interesting because, I mean, you know that saying, an image is 1,000 words? It really is. It really is. Now, I hate to burst your bubble, but apparently, someone did a fact check. So let's take a look at the fact check. This is from Reuters. They say, photo does not show Biden kneeling before Israeli president, quote, pledging support. So a picture of U.S. President Joe Biden kneeling in front of outgoing Israeli President Rivlin and his chief of staff Ravitz has been mislabeled online. Some posts and articles have wrongly said he adopted the pose to, quote, pledge unconditional support to Israel, unquote. But Israeli press widely reported that Biden meant it as a light-hearted show of respect. After learning that Ravitz, who's the chief of staff, right? So she's the woman on the right over here. After learning that Ravitz was the mother of 12 children. Okay. I mean, look, man. Look. The reason that this image stands out is really not because of the quote. Joe Biden, as he once said, I'm quoting here. This is what Joe Biden said. He says, I'm a Zionist. They're all Zionists, man. Every single one of them, right? Kamala Harris is a huge friend of AIPAC. AIPAC is the Israeli lobby in the U.S. Joe Biden is a huge friend of AIPAC in Israel, right? He just said during his meeting that, Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. It's right, because they keep pushing this lie that Iran is pursuing a nuclear weapons program. For the love of God, Iran does not have a nuclear weapons program. They have a nuclear program, not a weapons program. Those are two completely different things. God, it's really annoying. So apparently they had to go and debunk this. I don't know why they were saying that. But over here, they say that... Sorry, excuse me. I'm just going to scroll up over here, right? So I want to point you to a moment with Donald Trump because it's not for no reason that we mention this, right? It's not about the stupid kneeling, man. It's not about the kneeling. Although I highly doubt if, I highly doubt that if Esma al-Assad, Bashar al-Assad's wife, the Syrian first lady, said she was the mother of 12 children that Biden would kneel. I highly doubt that. Nonetheless, the Americans, every single president does that, perhaps, not physically, literally, but most certainly in spirit and at heart. Biden has, just like every other U.S. president, has pledged unconditional support to Israel. They all do that. You cannot become a politician in the United States if you don't pledge unconditional support to Israel. You can't. Even Bernie Sanders and the so-called squad, pay attention to what they say. They always say something along the lines of, Israelis deserve to live in peace and security, comma, and Palestinians have the right to self-determination, whatever interesting, nice little woke thing they put here, right? They always start out with Israel first, like Israel comes first, and then Palestinians can, maybe have something similar, but not a state on their own land, right? Palestinians' well-being and human rights and self-determination is always dependent on what Israel and the U.S. want. And if you recall, Donald Trump, I say a few months ago, it's a year now. Look how fast the time flies. What did Donald Trump do? Do you recall what he did when he was meeting with Netanyahu, who's bye-bye now? Netanyahu's bye-bye. Here's what Donald Trump did. He gave him a key to the White House. Sometimes they give, as a symbolic gesture, they give people a key to the city, right? No, Trump gave him a key to the White House. I mean... Wow, that kind of says it all, man. It really says it all. Some people were jokingly saying that it's Netanyahu who would give Trump a key to the White House. But they apparently, they've both been kicked out of their seats now, haven't they? Right? They've both been kicked out now, and Netanyahu, though, he says we'll be back. Right? He makes a threat before he leaves. We'll be back. I mean, again, man, this is not so much about the physical gesture. It's more about the policies, about the practices, about the $3.8 billion in military aid per year that they give the Israelis. It's about the the vilifying of Iran, of Syria, giving Israel a pass and never enforcing any UN Security Council resolutions, right? They're still occupying the Syrian Golan Heights. They're still occupying Palestine. Remember, people forget that Palestine is not the only country under Israeli occupation. Syria is under Israeli occupation since 1967. Of course, the humanitarian situation is nowhere near comparable, right? What the Palestinians are going through is on another level. No one goes through that. But still, they allow the Americans, the Europeans, they allow the Israelis to get away with everything. They literally subsidize their occupation, right? They just gave them more missiles after they depleted all of them against Hamas. They gave them 50 million in December when Trump passed the $600 stimulus check, that relief package back in December, the last one he did. So there's always money for Israel, right? There's no money for healthcare. We have no time to make sure Palestinians live in peace and security. They don't have a right to self-defense. There's no state. Hey, the Israelis have that. We can give them a key to the White House. Do you see once again? This is especially this topic is further proof how there's no difference between Democrats, Republicans, especially here. You do not become a politician in the United States without pledging unconditional support to Israel. And another point that I wanted to raise, this is when Glenn was interviewing AOC before she got elected, right, for The Intercept. And we watched this interview together here. I've covered it, right? He asked her about what they were doing at the Right to Return marches. So you had these Palestinian crowds that would form every Friday after prayer. The Palestinians were going to the fence and saying, "We want to go home. You stole our homes, our parents' homes, our grandparents' homes. We want to go home." And the Israelis were shooting them, right, in the knees. They were killing them. They were killing medics, journalists, you name it. And Glenn asks AOC, "What do you think of that? Like, what are your thoughts on that?" And AOC, she says she condemns it. Right? And that's surprising because that's a refreshing answer. You never hear someone in U.S. politics condemning Israel. In New York, especially running for Congress in New York. It's impressive, right? But unfortunately, as we all know now, it's just hot air, right? It's just hot air. And again, we're not going to go into all of this, all of the subsequent actions. But, you get the point. So this over here, whether Biden is kneeling or Trump is giving a key to the White House, this is the same crap. It's the same relationship. There you go.